What is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today I am giving a comparison slash review slash all that good stuff on these two palettes right here. This is the Makeup Revolution Ultra Eye Contour Light and Shade, and this is the Kat Von D Eye Contour Shade and Light palette. So obviously this was made exactly to dupe this palette here. But let's not make this intro too long. If you guys like the way this look turned out and you like my thoughts, then you should give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe before you leave. I do post 3 videos a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And you don't want to miss them, right? Anyways, let's jump right on into the swatches, the tutorial, the comparison. Let's do it. Okay, so I've done the rest of my makeup besides my eye makeup, obviously. So let's get into these two palettes now. This is obviously Makeup Revolution. They took on a very similar name. It is the Ultra Eye Contour Shade and Light, and this is the Eye Contour Light and Shade. So they were literally just trying to dupe the Kat Von D palette. Let's be real. $15, $45, 48 or 45? One of the two. I will put it in the description after I'm done filming this. The cool thing with the Makeup Revolution palette is it does come with a brush, and this is like, if I could freaking hold this in my hand, this is like not a bad quality brush. This has like a flat packer end and then a more blendy crease brush end. Or the Kat Von D palette does not come with a brush. But, so we have all these shades. I haven't swatched any except for the black just because I was really curious about the black. But as you can see, it even has the exact same layout, the 3 big shades on top and then the 3 little ones beneath those big shades. Exact same layout. This palette doesn't have names for these colors. This palette has names, and honestly, like, I can't pronounce any of them. It's like Ladis, Lazarus, Ludwin. No, there's no point in trying, okay? The biggest difference I see between these two palettes are these two light shades down here. They are very different in the Kat Von D palette. This is a shimmer shade, and this is like a bone white matte shade. They are pretty different. These two, however, there's not much of a difference between them. They did add a slight sheen into this one, similar to the Kat Von D palette. However, this one is not a white. This is like a creamy shade. Honestly, they look almost exactly the same. I would say also the warm base shades over here. Makeup Revolution is a little bit more orangey. This is not necessarily as orange. Other than that though, they're pretty dang similar. Also, this brown here compared to this brown is a little bit warmer, a little bit more chocolatey, whereas this is a little bit more neutral. What I am going to do is swatch the shades side by side by the sections here, the warm, cool, neutral, and I'm going to show them to you side by side so then you can get a feel for them. So the top row is the Makeup Revolution and the bottom row is the Kat Von D. Obviously you can tell the Kat Von D row down here is like highly pigmented. These, I would not say they're bad shadows at all, but you can tell up here it's a lot more warmer than their brown down here in the Kat Von D. These shades are pretty dead on. One's just a lot patchier, obviously, than the Kat Von D one. This shade right here, which I'm not even sure if it's picking up, has a slight sheen to it, whereas the Makeup Revolution kind of has a sheen to it, but not a lot. Not a lot. Now let's move on to the middle row. So again, the top row is Makeup Revolution, the bottom row is Kat Von D. Again, you can clearly see how much buttery and more pigmented the Kat Von D row is. You can see a huge difference between this shade and this shade down here. This is obviously like a bone white, whereas this is more of like a cream shade. I don't think this would be pigmented enough or bright enough to highlight your brow bone, but this clearly would be. I would actually say Makeup Revolution's base shade is a little bit more cool toned than Kat Von D's, but overall, this is clearly a cool toned row here. Okay, again, top row Makeup Revolution, bottom row Kat Von D. I would say there's not a ton of difference besides the two base shades. The Makeup Revolution is a little bit more pinky, whereas this is like a true peach, like orangey peach. They're very similar, but I just, you know me, I love this like reddish brown, the brick color. Their browns are pretty similar. And the creamy shades right here, those are pretty similar as well. Overall, this is probably the most similar row, I would say. in regards to like quality and pigmentation, not just the color. That's probably the most similar row. So I've actually never used either of these palettes before, so I'm really excited. I've always wanted to pick up the Kat Von D palette. I've wanted it for quite some time, but then I heard about the Makeup Revolution palette and how it's an exact dupe, and it made me want to pick up the Kat Von D more, as well as this, so I could do a video about them, compare them, see if it's worth it to spend the money on the Kat Von D palette and tell you guys about it, or see if it's just good enough to have this palette. I'm not gonna use the brush that the Makeup Revolution palette came with, only because I wanna use brushes that I trust and that I know work for me, so that I can't blame anything on a brush. But I do wanna try this out because it seems pretty good quality. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking about this brush and let's jump right on into the eye look. So I'm going to do my right eye with the Kat Von D palette and my left eye with the Makeup Revolution palette. I do have a washcloth here that I'm going to use in between eyes so that I don't transfer any of the color to the eyes. Starting with the Kat Von D palette, I'm actually going to take a mixture of the base shade here and this cool toned base shade and run that through my crease. These Kat Von D shadows are already incredibly buttery. Like, woo, they feel nice. At first I was taking a mixture of the two, but now I'm kind of just taking the peachy orangey shade just because I want to bring warmth a little bit. Onto the Makeup Revolution side, I'm going to take those exact two same shades and run those through my crease. There's a little bit of kickback with the Makeup Revolution palette, but that's very similar to the amount of kickback I get with the Kat Von D palette. Starting out pretty pigmented, pretty similar to the Kat Von D palette, gotta be honest. And now, just like I did before, I'm just taking the more orangey, peachy shade and running that through the crease and kind of blowing out the transition shades. There's a slight difference between the two eyes here, and I think that mostly has to do with the fact that the Kat Von D shadows are obviously a little bit more pigmented. So I can see a little bit more deepness of color here, whereas not as much over here, but that's okay. I'm sure we can just add more to fix that. The more precise blending brush in the Kat Von D eye, I'm going in with this warm brick shade. You guys know those are my favorite shades. What I'm going to do is just take this like in my direct crease to deepen it up. This is honestly blending like a dream. Like I've never had, I'm being completely honest, I don't think I've ever had an eyeshadow that blends this quickly on its own. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my gosh. I barely had to do any work for that to blend. Like, I barely had to do anything. I'm just taking it a little bit in my outer V just to kind of deepen things up. But yeah, mostly it just in that direct crease. Now I'm going to take the exact same shade, but in the Makeup Revolution palette, and do the exact same thing. Just slightly patchier, but the color pretty similar. It's not blending nearly as well, but again, it's not like bad. Like I was saying earlier, the Kat Von D shadow, I've honestly never had a shadow blend that easily, so I was like in awe. So I definitely did not expect the Makeup Revolution to blend that easily. I feel like I added a little bit more onto this eye, so I'm going to clean off my brush and take a little bit more onto this eye just to kind of even it out here. I don't even have to do anything for that to blend. It's literally just, it's insane. While we're in the midst, I'm going to take this big fluffy brush and just kind of blend everything together just to make sure that we don't have any harsh lines. We want everything to look super smooth. Next, with the Kat Von D eye, I'm actually gonna take a mixture of these two shades. This is the neutral little block here, and I'm going to take them halfway across my lid. That was so easy. Those stuck right onto my eye. I didn't have to like pack in a bunch more. Wow. So that's really cool. So now I'm gonna clean off my brush, and in the Makeup Revolution side, take the exact two same shades here, mix them together, and do the exact same thing. Definitely not as pigmented. I did have to go in a few more times with more product to pack it on, but the color's pretty similar when mixing those two shades. What I'm going to do now is I'm gonna jump back into the brick red shade that I had used previously in both palettes and just blend those two shades together out here. I'm just gonna kind of bring it in a little bit through the outer V just to blend it pretty easily on both sides, so I'm not complaining. In the Kat Von D side, I'm going to take this pretty creamy white shade right here that has a slight sheen, and I want to brighten up the inner third of my eye, so that is what I'm going to pack on there. I love doing eye looks like these where it's like a gradient from dark to light, because I feel like it really elongates my eye shape. That packed on so easily and so smoothly, and now I'm gonna clean off my brush and do the same thing with the same shade on the other side. This is kind of making me a little sad because this looks so amazing, whereas this is just like, what the fuck? So I am going to try and pack on a little bit more. It just does not really have a sheen to it, and it's a little bit whiter than the one in the Kat Von D. I'm gonna take the brush we used before when we mixed these two colors, and I'm gonna mix them again and blend it through just to create like a more smooth transition with that lighter shade. And I'm gonna do the same thing, clean off the brush, and do the same thing with the other eye. Now, just to kind of add a little bit more in the crease, I'm taking the peachy shade here, the base shade, and I'm taking my original first brush, and I'm just gonna blend a little bit more of that through the crease. And now going into the Makeup Revolution palette, I'm taking that same peachy shade I cleaned off my brush, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. To bring the look down onto the lower lash line, I'm taking this really tiny pencil brush. First gonna start out with this neutral light brown shade and just kind of pick that up lightly and sweep it along the lower lash line. It's created a really, really pretty natural looking definition, which is pretty cool. Tapped off my brush, dusted it off, and I'm picking up that same shade from the Makeup Revolution palette. It's pretty similar for the lower lash line. I can't tell a huge difference, except for the fact that it's not as pigmented. That's about it. Now going in with this massive brush, I'm just dipping a little bit, the tiny tip, into that red brick brown shade I love so much. And I'm just gonna kind of blow out this lower lash line, doing the same with the Makeup Revolution side. Tried to use as many shades as possible, but on a day-to-day basis, I would not use this many shades for a simple matte look. I can clearly tell that this side is more blended out and more pigmented than this side. I think that this Makeup Revolution palette is really good quality for $15 and for a drugstore makeup eyeshadow palette. This is more pigmented than a lot of drugstore palettes I've used. This has more options than a lot of drugstore palettes I've used. I mean, obviously it's duped onto the Kat Von D palette, but this is like, we have a cool tone, we have a neutral, and we have a warm. Like, it's pretty cool. It's a really cool thing that the drugstore has done. No other drugstore palette, I think, has done something like this. Okay, so my final thoughts on these two palettes. Point blank, if you don't want to spend $45+ on this, just go buy this. Yes, these shadows are incredible, and Kat Von D is known for her incredibly buttery and incredibly pigmented shadows, but if you don't care too much about that, I would suggest this. This is really good, especially for the drugstore. This is like the best drugstore palette I've ever tried, and it's essentially the exact same thing. So if you don't care to spend that much, go pick this up. Yes, these are incredible. This is good. Worth the $15 for sure. Okay guys, those are my final thoughts on these two palettes here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And also, don't forget to subscribe before you leave so you never miss another one of my videos. I hope you guys are having a great morning, noon, evening, day, night, whenever it is that you're watching this. Have a great one. I love you guys very much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!